Welcome, everybody, to our January session of Juiced. Such an exciting time, one of my absolute favorite times of the month to talk with you guys about all things marketing, strategy, creativity, and just getting you guys pumped up for what's going to be a great January. Hopefully, we're going to rock and end January and kick off into February. So, today's conversation is going to be all about mass media tactics and how we can really grow our brand awareness and even some of our offerings through mass media tactics and how we can make some great buys, how we can really make the most of a package with our mass media vendors. And so it's kind of tricky. Don't forget, people that sell mass media, you know what they are for a living? Salespeople. So they know really how to push the content to you. They tend to be pretty aggressive and rush, and they make you feel like it's the deal of a lifetime. And if you don't sign right now, your competition is going to scoop it up. And listen, there's a little bit of truth to that, but there's not a lot of truth that's going to push us into making bad decisions. And so, no bad decisions in 2024. That's what our goal is. All right. So, let's get started with what exactly is mass media, Crystal? Like, what are you talking about? Okay. So, mass media is how we are reaching literally the masses. So a lot of our marketing, we like to be highly and super targeted, right? So we want to be down there talking to our exact target market on the exact time that we need it. And it's this game of cat and mouse, like we're constantly chasing the new leads. But mass media has a very broad approach. So that could be like traditional television, traditional radio, that is billboards, both digital and static billboards, even like some out of home things like let's say you're going to be on the posters and the advertisements at your local Top Golf, or you're wrapping city buses, you're on bus stops, you're in mall kiosks. All of those things are to increase your brand awareness. And what we're trying to do is really be in the journey with our clients. And so this gets like super out of like it can get out there. Okay. So bear with me because I like to talk a little bit as if things are very philosophical, if you will. Like, I want you guys to understand that mass media is straight up a strategy for just being in people's face all the time, right? So, how can I be in people's face more and more and more every single day? Because the more they experience my brand through visual or auditory or just experiencing the brand like in our community and things like that, the likelier they are of choosing my company directly instead of going out to like a free agency, as I say, like a free agent on a football team, like they're up for grabs. I want them to search for me specifically. So mass media is a very cool way and a very targeted way in the sense to get people to just experience your brand without necessarily needing your brand just yet. Right. So I want to be building top of mind awareness before they actually need the service. And it's also an expensive way to do things. And it's very hard to track. Like, so those are all the ick sides of mass media. Again, they're hard. It's hard to have directional ROI tied to mass media. So it's going to be very hard to say, oh my gosh, I put this billboard up yesterday and I sold a system off of it today. That's few and far between. But what you're doing is penetrating or infiltrating the market where subconsciously and through their environment, people are exposed to your brand, your logo, your look, your colors, your mascots, all of those things very consistently. And so that's what we're going to talk about today is like, what exactly are your mass media uh, plans? What are you doing? Wrapped trucks do count. I count that as mass media. Can't be your only mass media, in my opinion, but it certainly is a very good start. So here's how we're going to measure and discuss mass media today. So, number one, we need to know what success is going to look like. Okay, so for mass media, what does the success of things really look like? How will I know when a mass media campaign was successful? And then managing the expectations. So, like I mentioned earlier, I don't want people to think, yeah, I mean, I'm a brand new company, I'm gonna launch all this mass media, and boom, the calls are just gonna start rolling in. Guys, that's not gonna happen. Not with mass media. Mass media is a long-term strategy. It's a marathon approach to brand building. Okay. And then the third and final thing is we got to be patient. Okay. Be patient because it's got to have time to marinate, right? So I use this example quite often. So, how many times do you go and just put plain, boring chicken on a grill? You don't. Most of us do not. you're at least gonna add a little spice, a little salt and pepper on there, right? But those of you that are like chef connoisseurs and barbecue connoisseurs, you're gonna be like, no, I gotta marinate this for at least 2 to 3 hours and let the flavors really get in the chicken so they taste good. So it's the same thing here, right? So if I go home at 6 o'clock to cook dinner, do I have a lot of time to marinate? Probably not. I'm gonna throw something on there, sprinkle some Tony's. I'm from Texas. Sprinkle some Tony seasoning on there and call it a day. But if it's on Saturday and I have more time, I might wake up and marinate the chicken and then cook it. So mass media is marinating the chicken. It's something that we want to sit with our brand and constantly be exposing our market to it so it gets better and better and better with time. So we got to be patient, okay? But knowing what success looks like, I want to talk a lot about that. Um, Again, we are such an immediate society right now. Immediacy is everything. Okay. So when I say that, like what happens here is you look up and you're like, man, I've spent all this money and I've not got anything from my radio. I talk to people all the time looking to come on to work with Lemon Seed, and they'll say, well, I did a radio campaign and it just didn't generate anything. I'm like, how do you know that? You don't know it, right? So, one way that we can start seeing some traction is our organic growth. So, how many new people are going and searching our name specifically for a phone number or for an online form? That's one easy way for us to determine that people are engaging and learning the name of our company and then applying that when they need the service. So, the best way I can tell you to know that you're being successful with mass media is you're seeing more direct branded searching for your company. Your social media platforms are growing. You're getting a better response to email. New customer acquisition is growing. And that is how we measure it. The hard part and just the tough piece to swallow here is it's not going to be super directional. But you just, again, understand what success looks like, understand how you're going to manage the expectations, and be patient. All right, so we want to see and measure branded searching. So we want more people searching our name directly, which is what I mentioned earlier. So that's where I say you want people searching the name of your company, Yellow Bear Air versus heat repair near me. Heat repair near me should scare the poo poo caca out of all of you. Okay. Like we don't want, we're not, that's like all of us going to like an auction of people and we're all like pick us, hey, here's me, and you're just like duking it out for that one poor soul who's like, I just needed somebody to come work on my heater, right? So I want you to think of it that way, like literally they're standing out on a stage like looking out at all of their options, right? We would much rather them search our name, but to get that name awareness we have to do mass media branding tactics that just help them start knowing who we are. So that's the best example that I have there. And then stick to messaging that is triple C. Our messaging that we put out on all of our mass media needs to be three things: clear, concise, and creative. Okay. Needs to be clear, needs to be concise, and needs to be creative. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Some of you are like, you know what? Like, I need to put as much information as I can on this $5,000 a month billboard. And it's the exact opposite. Excuse me. It's the exact opposite. We need to be very clear. Concise means I'm going 85 miles an hour past your billboard. I have like literally a 5 second moment to absorb that message. So if you've got like, we now accept credit cards on there and um, four other lines of verbiage and a Facebook symbol, like my brain cannot comprehend all of that. So I say it needs to be very clear. It needs to be very concise and very creative. So let's deep into the clear piece here. So when you overcomplicate or crowd up your creative, we can't get the full picture, right? We need to, do y'all know what the KISS method is? Like keep it simple, stupid. Stupid is a cuss word in my house because I hate people. Look at me saying hate, but I want my kids to never feel stupid. So I never say the word stupid because not all D's are stupid. But for you guys, like, I want you to remember, I just need to keep it simple. And so what you do should be the biggest piece of the creative in the hierarchy, meaning the layout of that billboard. And so by being very clear, so we are a plumbing company, we are a roofing company. So right now, unless you have a very creative strategic way that you're not going to say anything about your company, but you're going to make them think of your company, which can be done through creative, I'm going to tell you the most important part of the creative on that billboard is your name and what you do. Then from there, we can be creative. Like, are we putting in a little joke? What are we adding in? But it needs to be very clear at 85 miles an hour that they can do that. Same, let's talk about on the radio. On the radio, it's the same thing. There is no visual for me as the consumer. So everything has to be auditory. So if I jump on there and say, "Hi, this is Crystal Williams with Yellow Bear Air. We now do trenchless plumbing and water heaters, and we're doing generators, and we do heating and air conditioning for Goodman, Amana, Lennox. We'll do any make and model. Call us today at one blah 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 blah. And don't forget, follow us on social media." People are like, I'm sorry, what? What was that? Because it's not clear. What I did was take advantage of that 15 seconds and crammed everything I could into it. So it's just not productive. That's not clear. Instead, I could say, "Hey guys, it's Crystal with Yellow Bear Air. We are proud to be your biggest supporter for clean home comfort for your heating and air conditioning system in all of East Texas. Call us today, yellowbearair.com." So all of a sudden, they're like, Yellow Bear Air, heatingcooling.com. I could have said we also do generators and dryer vent cleaning, and Yellow Bear Air is a made up company. So, right now I could do all kinds of things. But, and that we offer financing and that we have a $69 tune up. There's tons of other things I could have said, but I might not have been able to say because I don't have enough time to keep it clear. All right. So we're going to make it very concise, is our second point. Concise, concise. Get to the point. So let's say that we want to say that we're open 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. 7 days a week. Like that is our jam. That's what we want to be known for. There's only, I can, again, 5 to 8 seconds people are going to interact with that billboard. So, on the most part. So, ideally, you need to get to the point without overcomplicating it. So, are there all these caveats in there? Like, we are Yellow Bear Air heating and cooling, but we also do water heaters. Like, you can't always add every piece of that in there. So, by being concise, it's you have what are we going to put inside of that time frame to grab and gain their attention? So, the clarity piece comes from don't be very direct about what the options are. Concise means just get to the point. Get to the point. Don't worry about the exclusions and all of that. You can always put an asterisk up there that says see full details on our website if we have to. Most of us need to use those billboards as just straight branding tactics. But if you were to put out like a 777 message, you could say, "See website for complete details." So there's, again, we want to be very clear and to the point, very concise with our messaging and not overcomplicating things. Then the next thing is we want to be creative here. So let's really push our vendors. So, for example, I had a billboard guy that owns a bunch of billboards come visit me yesterday in my office, and he says, "Hey, I am having a little bit of trouble selling our outbound billboards." So that means when you're going out of the major parts of the cities. So this applies for everybody. So he's having trouble selling boards that are outbound and left-hand readers. Well, because they're not the most lucrative boards, right? So he was like, "Hey, if your company wants to bulk buy 5 of these, I will sell them to you at $250 a month or $350 a month." Guys, that's a steal because I need to push out into the market, right? I need to push out away from the big city. So I pushed him back like, "Well, what if I can't do 350, but what if I do 350, will you give me one free wrap, one free creative on those static boards?" Right? So push your vendors to think deeper. Also, I had a really good conversation with one of our contractors yesterday about, we're not just gonna I talk out of both sides of my mouth here for you. At sometimes it's really good. Just put your logo up on there and just say now offering plumbing. So it's, Yellow Bear Heating and Air and now plumbing, right? Put that up there. I also like to throw in like a tagline or visit our website. But if I had like a really good offer, like I have a client right now that I would love to do like your comfort's first mate. And so that would be what we pushed out across all of our billboards this year. And we would keep that creative so it just starts resonating with people. So be creative, think outside the box, not just in your messaging, but also like where you can have these located. And then also, same thing on radio and TV. So right now, traditional TV, you have to think of that and traditional radio as you're literally casting a huge net into the ocean. So if you were to drive your boat out into the ocean and say you're going on you're hunting for, or hunting, You're fishing for marlin. Okay. Let's say that's what your goal is. Well, you have to go with traditional radio and TV, you're casting a wide net. So are you going to catch some marlin? Yes. But are you going to also catch a bunch of other fish that you don't necessarily need or want? Yes. Versus telling your guide, hey, take me to where you know marlin are. And they're going to say, oh, yeah, there's a lot of marlin right over here in this specific area. So that's the difference between traditional broadcast radio and TV and digital radio and TV. Broadcast, wide net. You're going to catch your target market, but along with some other people versus like baiting a hole, which is what digital is. Right now, you can literally say, I only want to talk to these particular people. So it's just different strategies that you put in place. But same thing. So like with my radio station, I love to push back and say, hey, I will do a traditional run, a traditional flight of radio, but I also want to run some station sponsorships, or I want to sponsor the app, or I want to sponsor the fishing tournament. You know what I mean? Get in there and do some extra things with your radio and TV stations to just keep your name fresh and on some short spurts of things. But again, be creative with how hard you push them on a lot of those things. So on all mass media, there's three things that also really matter. Frequency matters. So how often are people seeing me? So let's use radio. This is a good example. So if I buy a radio spot and I'm like, up, I'm running 52 weeks. Great, but you're running two commercials a day, right? Or I can run 26 weeks. I can run every other week where people are going to hear me four times a day. The frequency of four times a day trumps the frequency of two times a day, in my professional opinion. And then consistency. So people will say, I tried radio, it didn't work for me. And I'm like, oh, tell me about it. And they'll say, I ran for 2 months. And I'm like, no, that's not enough. Because mass media it's not a PPC campaign, right? It's not a Facebook ad campaign. This is you're literally trying to just be seen and heard all the time. Seen and heard, seen and heard. Everywhere people look, I want them to see my vans and hear my jingle and see my TV commercial, see my billboards, see my mascot. C, because I know that that's a lower cost of a lead once I can get some traction with that. So the consistency means you got to let it work, right? That marinade. So if I tell you to marinate something for 2 to 3 hours and you marinate it for 20 minutes, is the flavor going to be different? 1000%. It's going to be much weaker because I only gave it 20 minutes to marinate, right? And then your message matters. So let me tell you this. So I had a client the other day and this is direct mail, so it's not necessarily mass media, but a client the other day said, hey, right before I signed on with you guys, I bought 10,000 mailers and I mailed them out. And the offer on it was like $1,000 on replacing your system. So I was like, okay, so have you ever mailed these people before? No. And how big is your brand? Oh, we have like 0.3% of the target of the market share. Okay. So what we did there is we sent out 10,000 postcards that very few people actually needed to replace their system right then anyway. So there's a very low percentage of that. And then we mailed it to people that really didn't know who we are in general. So that was a recipe for disaster. Like that was a recipe to waste money right there. Because direct mail is also another thing where frequency and consistency matter. So if you want to launch a campaign about $1,000 off a new system, I'd do a Facebook ad because right now, guys, we have got to have a low barrier of entry on our calls to action, an offer that helps eradicate that or helps knock down that barrier of entry, which is I'm scared that you're going to tell me I need a new system. So that's when you use the tune-up offer or water heater flush or drain clearing offers because those are not very scary to approach. So I'm not like I don't need a new system. Like I'm going to live in denial that I actually need a new system or need new plumbing or need a new water heater, or need a new roof or need a new electrical panel. No matter what system that you do, I'm going to be in denial because I don't want to spend the money, right? So you've got to have something that lets me in the house. So what you're doing is you're using mass media to really build that brand awareness throughout your community, so people are experiencing your brand constantly. Then when they need the service, you're hoping that they think of you first. Then you're going to have an offer that makes you not a very threatening choice, right? Oh, it's only $89 for them to come out and do a tune-up, but my electric bill's been high, my air cuts off weird, and there's just a lot going on with my heating and air conditioning system, so I know something's wrong. And in their mind, maybe a tune-up's going to fix it. So at the very least, what you're doing is giving them an opportunity to sign up for your maintenance club. So all of these things play together, okay? But all of them matter, okay? So radio and TV also have a thing called waste. Again, I talked to a contractor the other day. They're spending $100,000 a year on TV. Well, when I get in the contract and I start looking, this is a contract that they signed before Lemon Seed. When I get in there and I start looking, the station covers like 20 counties. How many counties do you think that this client serves? 5. So 15 counties, they're actually only able to cover a fourth of what they're paying to cover. So they're paying these big ticket prices, and really their services are only open to a fourth of the people that they're marketing to. That's a huge waste of money. Radio, a lot of you that are in big mass markets, the radio station goes too far. You don't even service out that far. So that's why traditional broadcast television and radio is not a good fit for everyone because it's so much waste. There's so many people hearing or seeing the message that actually cannot use your services because you don't go that far, right? Or whatever the reason is. And so make sure that you are paying attention to the service area of the station that you're buying on broadcast. Again, this is a check towards digital TV and digital radio. You tell them, I only want my ad to show in these 5 counties. And I only want it to show to people that own their home with a home over 10 years old. So there's all these pieces in there that you put to build out the exact audience that you want it to show to. And then make sure that back to traditional that your stations are for your target market. So again, I had this guy call and say, well, yeah, I mean, we have a great radio campaign. We're on sports talk radio. Hmm. So how many women, which is the main decision maker in the household right now for vendors, for choosing, contractors, how many of them are listening to that station? They're not. It's a bunch of men. So again, it would be great as like an added value for your radio buy, but really, you know what you need to be on? The girliest station that they have. Those of you that live in the Bible Belt, you know what great stations are? Christian radio. Great stations for those of us in the Bible Belt. You know why? Because that's what women are listening to. And then quality over quantity. I would rather you buy TV commercials, 4 TV commercials that run during the news hour than 5 TV commercials that run randomly throughout the day. Because your audience is more segmented and controlled. So it would benefit you to have one good commercial that runs every night during the news than 5 that are running at random times, 5 o'clock in the morning, 11 o'clock at night, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. There's benefits to being on to paying attention to the actual day part that your station is going to run either your radio or your TV spots. So those are important things to know. Increased search volume is how we're going to measure these, right? So if a radio ad has had an effect on your consumers, then you can expect to see an increase in search volume around certain keywords from your ad. So let's use that 777, things like that. Like you want after hours HVAC company, after hours plumbing company, trenchless plumbing company. Those are things that if you're using those in your messaging for mass media, you should see an increased search volume in those. And then because of that, you should also see an increased site traffic from, again, branded search. You should see more people coming to your company's website through a direct search. Show me McWilliams and Son. Show me Covenant Plumbing. Show me LCS Heating and Cooling. Like you want to build out those words so strong that people immediately search for those particular terms, not the heater repair near me, water heater repair near me. Because some of you like water heaters, you're competing with people like Home Depot and Lowe's and things like that. And we have just got to get more intentional about making people search for our brand specifically. That is why you see me. I harp on community involvement in social media and treating your employees well and all of those things because that is your brand. That's what's being put out into the market. If you don't control the message that goes out into the market, somebody else will. One bad interaction with your company will beat you to the punch of telling the market who you are. So I just encourage you there. You also should get a higher quality of traffic. You're going to see a decrease in the bounce rate, meaning because you're doing a good job of driving people to your website naturally, like because they searched your name, you should see a decrease in the amount of people that hit the website and immediately bounce off. So here's a good example. If I go search restaurants near me and the first one I click on is a Mexican food place and I don't want to eat Mexican food, I'm going to jump right off. I don't want Mexican food, right? Today I wanted seafood or whatever. Same thing here. So when people go out free market and they say, heater repair near me and they land on your website, but they weren't looking for your website, they're going to bounce off. We want to keep that bounce rate very consistent and very solid and low, because that's going to tell us that the right people looking for services are landing on our site and spending some time there. And so, most of our work should come from new customers. Okay. So that's important. Increased conversion rate. So ultimately, you're likely going to see more visitors become leads and eventually paying customers. So now we're trying to pay attention to who has hit our website that then made an action with our company, created a transaction with our company. Those are important tactics that we need to measure. So, billboards or any out of home, I wanted to jump through here. So, choosing the right location for your billboard is very important. So, not only do you need to be targeting a demographic, there are other factors that we really need to keep in mind. And you'll hear me like the lemon seed way I say of buying billboards. Like, I can tell you right now, I only normally want right hand readers, meaning the billboard is facing on the same side of the road that I'm heading down. So, if I'm heading northbound, I want the billboard to be right here, not over here. I want it to be over here. I want it to be not mainly on a major traveler's pathway. So if I'm on a major interstate, odds are, honestly, the majority of people on that roadway are not my customer. And those are the most expensive boards because people like McDonald's and national chains want those. Step off the main path and get into those things. So let's jump into visibility here. So I almost bought a board in Lufkin where I live the other day for my brother's company, but when I went and drove by it, it's covered with trees. So I'm like, no, no, I'm not going to do this. So is there anything blocking the view? Can they see the full board? Is it lit? Is it below an unfavorable board? Like, is a strip club being advertised on top of it? That might deter me from advertising below it. Is a bunch of construction happening right there? Is the board looking tattered? I mean, there's lots of things that I like to pay attention to. I want to drive by the board at night, but I also need to be ready to make quick decisions on billboards. And so visibility is very important. And the company is going to send you, the billboard company is going to send you this beautiful picture of it. Like, look how clear it is. And that you still need to go drive by it yourself. Traffic density. So it needs to be seen by as many customers, potential customers as possible. So for Texas, TxDOT, which is our Texas Department of Transportation, they share with us, hey, 30,000 people drive by this board every day, 100,000 people, 5,000 people. I like traffic count, but I want to be off the beaten path a little bit more towards neighborhoods. And so every driver and pedestrian is a possible customer. So picking the right area that has the highest visibility with the least amount of non-customer traffic is the best bet. So that's why just because it's on the main thoroughfare through your market does not mean it's the best board for what you're trying to accomplish. It's got a lot of traffic, but the majority of it is traveling traffic. Okay. So we're going to get intentional about mass media. We're going to be consistent. We're going to be disruptive and we're going to be brave. And so, Juice, thank you for watching this. Leave your questions in the comments. We'll make sure that we get those answered. And then I just want to give you one other thing about mass media. Don't be scared of it. Don't be scared of it. If I had to tell you one thing, I would dominate one mass media before I tried to diversify across multiple. Meaning, if you want to own a mass media and you're a smaller company, start with one. So maybe it's radio, maybe it is billboards, and maybe I wouldn't buy just one billboard. I'd be encouraging you to buy 2 or 3 billboards, okay? Or if it's going to be TV, I would really encourage you to consider OTT over broadcast TV, unless you're going to buy specifically in the news. But don't try to do the news on TV and billboard unless you have the budget, because you're gonna again, frequency and consistency. You can be more frequent with that same amount of money on one tactic. So mass media can be a lot of fun. If you are not a client with Lemon Seed and you need some support, feel free to email us at hello@lemonseedmarketing.com. We would be happy to get you some free advice if we need to help you make some decisions, but also talk with you about the services that Lemon Seed provides. And our next juice session will be February the 9th. You're going to have a different person, another team member from Lemon Seed will be leading that juice call. That's going to be so exciting, full of fun. I love the month of February. So it's just enough early in the year, guys, that you can get a mass media campaign going. Commit to 6 months, commit to being clear, concise, and creative, and go rock it. And we will see you again for the next session of Juice on February 9th.